when you thought church was over, it starts again. It's like Groundhog Day, right? So we're going to start with some opening words by Reverend Sean, and then we're going to move into a short presentation by myself. I'm the task force chair for the new sanctuary. And then I'm going to turn it over to David Keidel, who you met earlier, our architect, who has some great boards here, and also his images are going to be on the screen. So Sean?
May this be a sanctuary for all of us, for those who have passed, who are already here, and those who have yet to arrive. A place where we embrace and celebrate diversity in all its forms. May open-hearted hospitality be our passion and custom, and may we cherish and ensure this building as a place where each of us has the opportunity to be heard, understood, and accepted. May we invite full participation in religious life so that no one is left out of this beloved community to which we dedicate ourselves. Let us build this sanctuary as a place of love and peace.
Thank you, Sean. One thing I did fail to say is that we will be doing questions and answers at the end. So if you have a question that comes up, just jot it down or keep it in your up here, your noggin, and be ready to ask it, and we'll be able to field the questions. David will field the architectural questions. Craig Sperry, who is our architectural liaison for our task force, will help with those, and I will be helping out with fundraising questions and answers. So why do we want to build a new sanctuary? We want to grow in a number of ways, not just in numbers, however. We want to grow in spirituality, in influence, and also if we do grow in numbers, then we're able to do the aforementioned. So why do we want to build a sanctuary now? Well, we're running out of room. And last Sunday was a perfect example when we had a couple that came a little bit late, and they approached the door, and they opened the door gingerly, and they saw crowds of people, and they walked away. And thank heavens, Sarah Hunter walked out the door, and she went and got them and brought them in. So it's kind of like when you go into a restaurant and you see a pile of people, you tend to go, right? That's human nature. So we need a bigger space that can accommodate us comfortably. Also, a new sanctuary, as Sean has said, would allow us to use Daniel's Hall in the way that it was intended to be used. And if you think about it, think about on a Sunday, we would be in the sanctuary down the way. We come in here for coffee and conversation. It'll spill out into the patio. But if you'll think about where that picture is over there, that will be a wall that's a half wall, and it'll be linked to the kitchen. The coffee will be there, and you'll get your coffee, and it'll work the way that it was intended to work. Obviously, we can't knock that half wall down at this point, but that would be something that we would do. Also, keep in mind, we have a wonderful asset here. If you've been to other churches that do not have a courtyard the way that we have, where you can leave the doors open and enjoy the sounds of birds and have fresh air and sunshine. Having been back east for 10 years, where if you open the door, it would blow people out of the sanctuary. So it really is an asset that we have, and it provides an indoor-outdoor situation, which David is going to be talking about with our design that his firm has come up with. The bathrooms that we have now, a lot of the work that was done is going to be capitalized on. Those bathrooms will be able to serve us for the new facility, so we don't have to incur the expense of new bathrooms and other things. What are some of our assets to do it now? So Sean talked about positive, what we have going for us, and I'd like to emphasize some of those as well. We have a very loyal member base. Many of you are here every week, week after week, and have been coming for, Marcia, you've been 40 years? You know, no matter where Orange Coast is, you're loyal to this congregation. So we have I would like to say that sometimes I feel closer to many in this congregation than my biological family, because I see you more and I know about your lives, and I've been a part of who you are, your kids growing up, and that type of thing. We have a new sanctuary task force that's totally committed to this project. And if you are on that task force, would you mind standing so everybody can see who you are? Could you give everybody a big hand? This group has been working since April, and there are many talents within the group, from Christy and her design. You saw our logo. Christy designed the logo. Nina and her public relations and marketing expertise. Craig architecturally. Tom with his finance. It's just Sarah with her special events and just knowing what's happening.
In there.
Keeping us laughing, and Don with his expertise as well. It's a great group, and we've worked hard, but we've enjoyed our work and service on your behalf. We have an experienced architectural firm on board. I had the opportunity when I was with the UCC Church in Long Beach many years ago to work with what was then Dominy and Associates, which was a forerunner of Domus, our architects. The firm at that time did the addition of a historically designed building for the downtown Long Beach UCC Liberal Church. And they won quite a few awards for it. It was a pleasant experience, and also we have interviewed a number of their other more recent projects, one down in Dana Point, Gloria Day Lutheran Church, and they couldn't say enough nice things about them, the architectural team that worked on the project, the minister as well as the administrator, and also the UCC Church in Irvine. The task force head there, they've been working on their project for about 3 years, and she had me on the phone for an hour and a half telling me how great Domus was. So that's some of the due diligence we did before we entered in the agreement to use their services. I believe at last count, Domus has done 200 church facilities over 35 years. So they're not new to the rodeo. They've done a lot. So David had a lot to teach us. We know our church and we know Costa Mesa and Orange County, but he has a broader sense of what's going on in the church design business, which is not the same as it was 20, 30 years ago. We have a wonderful leadership team with our board of trustees. Deborah Quam, who is not here today, she and Audrey are traveling, but Audrey has picked up where Don left off, and it's a wonderful board and a wonderful leadership group that are very dedicated. We have a very charismatic, settled minister. Where'd she go? She's everywhere. And she's well known within the liberal religious circles, the social services circles in Orange County, and we couldn't be prouder of her. And when you say OCUC, they say, oh yeah, we know Sean, and she's awesome. We have an experienced new director of religious education. I think Judy's probably over there doing her work. We are very, very privileged and honored to have her. And of course, Beth, where's Beth? She's, what can I say? She's the best. So. Always has been, always will be. And we have fundraising and construction expertise within our congregation. I've been a fundraiser for the last 12 years. My career was in public relations, and then I kind of transferred over into fundraising and have done capital campaigns for as much as $1 million. So I've done the work. I enjoy it. I don't mind asking people for money, and that's a part of the criteria. You need to be able to feel comfortable doing that about something you believe in. And Craig Sperry, my husband, is has his construction license and is the liaison with David. We have one point of contact with our architectural firm to make sure that everything's managed properly, and that all 10 of us aren't telling David to do this, do that, whatever, and building up our cost. So what are some of the challenges that we face? We do have some challenges, and we talked about those a little bit this morning, Sean did, and we talked about them as a task force. We have rentals that we need that income. Meg will say that, and Tom and others in our finance council. But we are working on strategies for that, and just rest assured that it is something that is a part of the mix with our decision making. And despite our in-house capabilities and our anticipated generosity of you and as members and friends in our capital campaign, we know that we may need to do some other types of creative fundraising. This is a creative group. If you sat through the service this morning, it was creativity at its finest. So we will be doing some more creative type events and other things, hopefully not to be able to compete with our upcoming fundraiser. We don't want to do that. We need to keep going in that direction, and also with our canvas, which comes up later next year. We will obviously, if there's construction going on, when we get to that point, we're going to have to be flexible. If you've remodeled your house or your kitchen, and you know what it's like, you can't do everything the same way you did it when it wasn't under construction. So just, everyone will have to kind of go with the flow and just kind of meditate and take some deep breaths and deal with it. And we need to be open to changes in our courtyard plans. There were some preliminary plans that Christy and Tom and others of you have done. David's going to be talking about the importance of the link between the entryway to the courtyard of the property to the new sanctuary. And I'll just leave it at that and let you explain that further. What progress has been made? Just to give you an example. How about what progress has been made? There we go. In April, the board voted unanimously to move forward with the project. In May, a new sanctuary task force was formed with members representing diverse segments of the congregation. In June, the task force researched and interviewed architects. And in July, the task force, based on needs for a new sanctuary expressed in earlier congregational meetings and updated information, which was wonderfully researched and given to our task force by Barbara Moore-Hero, who's just a wonderful researcher and keeper of records. We formulated a criteria document to guide the architects in their proposals. And we had a wonderful session where of 2 hours that was led by Kathleen McFarland, who, if you ever have someone that you need someone to lead a retreat or a visioning workshop or whatever, she's wonderful. In 2 hours, we nailed down, based on all of the data that we had, what would be our goals, and it made the feedback that we got from the architects much stronger, because we were able to express what our needs were as a congregation. And in August, design work began by Domini after we had selected them as the, Domus, and the design work began based on the criteria document, and the first stage of the capital campaign to secure major leadership gifts was launched. So the goals and purposes for the new sanctuary. We want to develop a sanctuary that provides worship space that is meditative, tranquil, spiritual, and inspirational, that allows for fostering growth of the congregation and increases our influence in Orange County, that promotes community outreach through church-hosted concerts, film series, educational opportunities, and lectures, and provides for opportunities to generate rental revenue by serving as a site for weddings and etc., and for sharing worship space with other congregations, something that many other congregations are doing these days. So now I would like to introduce David Keidel, who is going to come up and give us an overview of the architectural plans. David?
Good morning. Thanks. Good morning. Thanks for having me. I'm David Keidel. I'm with Domus Studio Architects. Our firm is out of San Diego, but we do a lot of religious facilities, over 250 of them, I think. The count is climbing. For many years, all over Southern California, a couple back in Arizona, and a couple ongoing in Hawaii right now, a couple of Catholic churches in Hawaii. So we understand, as was spoken about, how churches work and the challenges that churches face these days in trying to get people through the door. So it's more than just building a nice space. It's kind of looking at the arrival from the parking lot, how one gets into the building, and then keeping somebody there. Once they get here, they get this great service and this great ministries. So if we could proceed to the next slide, please.
Can't read that.
So right now we are in the fellowship hall, right here. This is the main entrance into the campus, the rental area, and the corner building that we're looking to launch. It was really quite a simple site plan, understanding where a new building should go. But the geometries are a little unique because things aren't exactly square to each other, and trying to be as efficient with the building as we could. Part of doing church work and even a lot of the other work we do, we're always considering budget and how to get the most for the dollars. We understand funds are so hard to come by, it all comes out of the collection plate, so we try to do the best we can with the least amount of space and make it as nice as we can with what we have. So what we did is look at a very simple building, almost a box with a corner. That came out of the task force recommendations. But we put in parallel to the back parking lot, which actually set up some really nice entrances into the campus. They're almost funnel-like from the parking lot and from the north parking lot by the handicap stalls. So it really opens up the doorway or the gateway into the campus, along with the main walkway from the south side. One thing that we try to do is really try to be open and transparent with the building, breaking down the walls, breaking down the barriers. When new visitors come, like just was explained, when places are full, usually at churches, they'll say you're full when you're about 80% of the chairs that people start going away. So it's really important that you do have that breathing space. But getting somebody to come in the door and a new visitor is usually a challenge because they're usually a high anxiety. Should I go? Should I not go? Oftentimes you get to a courtyard like this, you're unsure which door I'm supposed to go into. There's nice people greeting you usually, and that helps. But it should be very clear as to where you go without having to rely on signs or having somebody telling you where to go. And you should be able to see what lies beyond, what lies ahead, so you're not walking through a solid door and all of a sudden you're on the chancel. I have a crazy story about that, about a church down in Poway, where churches are unique because they just add on, as needed, and as funds become available and as they grow. And oftentimes the circulation gets really convoluted, and we went to this one church and parked in the parking lot, went what we thought was to the front door, and opened up the door, and we were like on the chancel. In front of the whole congregation. Very strange. So we try to make it very clear where the door is. So what we've done is from the main entry, we created a very strong walkway. The shade structure currently sits right there, but we've removed that and tried to create a gathering space in the courtyard. So from whichever way you arrive from the parking lot, you arrive to the main courtyard. So there's that place for a central gathering place, which you're blessed with already, but we're trying to encourage that, encourage people or interaction. It's a chance encounter, just stopping to say hi to somebody. That's a little bit of a challenge with the 3 entrances that you have. Usually we try to get, 1 entrance or 2 entrances so people don't scatter, but it is what it is, and you have parking all around you, which is not necessarily a bad thing because you still end up with a central courtyard. So we looked at a sanctuary that seats 200 seats. And the back of the sanctuary has a bifold door. You'll see that in some renderings. So it really is a transformable space. It can open up to the outside. You can have it totally open in your courtyard, so there really is no door even to walk through when visitors come. They're just open and you're into the community. At the corners of the building, there are windows on each corner, so somebody parking in the parking lot can already see into where they're supposed to go, that's the main worship space, sanctuary. So there are some side doors, in inclement weather, the bifold doors could stay closed. So there are some side doors. You're blessed, and we kind of built on the bathrooms, the restrooms that you did already. We're just gonna utilize those for the new sanctuary, so we're trying to stay as simple as possible in order not to do all that. So we're really building a big open space with one storage room and a chancel and a platform. So there's 200 seats kind of in the round, so it's a little bit better sense of community than we even have here. So you can look across the room and see other people that are with you. And then we have a raised platform, so up 6, 12, 18 inches up, 6, 12, 12 inches up, I guess, which is high enough for the rows that we have. And then we have about a 25 member choir that can grow and shrink based on just the flexibility of that. Piano sitting on the floor in front of that. So these are all chairs, or new chairs, will be put into the new space. So it is really a flexible, multi-purpose space. You can add, you can subtract, you could remove them all, you could have dinners there if you wanted, different types of events. So it really is quite a flexible space. The platform's quite large, much larger than that. And then there's a handicap ramp on the backside that allows access to the platform. And then a storage area in the back with a door on the backside.
David, we have a number of people watching live, and one question came through: is there handicap seating designed in
Yeah, per code, this is not pews, so it's chairs, so that's much easier. When we go in for the code, we just designate handicap locations where chairs can seat, but since it's chairs, they really can.
The person's asking about them being up front. I'm taking that space we see toward the back, that's not handicap seating.
Correct. This right here is a sound booth.
Okay, that's the clarification I think they needed.
But it is a flat floor, there's no slope to the floor, so handicap there's accessible seating wherever you wish it to be. And we've shown 200 chairs, you may have fewer than that to start with. So restrooms, again, just out, we have a side door there, just outside the door. And you can faintly see it, but there's a covered walkway that connects this building to the new building. So in inclement weather, you're under cover, but you also get a lot of shade, and you'll see that in the renderings. Next slide. Next slide. This is an overview of just an aerial shot. So you can see the covering shade structure that connects the existing building to the new building, and then a very simple building. And we're showing right now, photovoltaic cells on the roof that can come now or it can come later as funds become available.
We're having a difficult time hearing you back here.
Okay, I'll try to talk closer. So we're showing photovoltaic cells on the roof. So whether you do that now or you do that later, that can come at any time. We usually just prep the roof for the power, auxiliary power when we build.
Did you say that was solar on the roof?
Yes, yes, photovoltaic cells, solar panels for electric.
Now, did I hear you say that seats 200 people?
Correct.
And there's no balcony or second story? 200 is the maximum that's gonna hold?
It's flexible, what we call white space, so you could cram more people in. The back of the door, the back of the space also opens up with a bifold door. You'll see that in some renderings. So the seating could expand to the exterior, which is still under cover.
So it's a little less than double of what's here?
Correct, correct. The task force had talked about if you're blessed and you grow to that number, you would just have 2 services. There you go.
I mean, that wouldn't even hold a large wedding, really.
200 square feet. Next slide. It comes down to budget. We talked about this at the task force. There's size, there's quality, and there's money. So you can only change, if one thing is capped, you can only change the other two. So we were trying to keep the budget at a certain number, which we can talk about, and so it's down to size and down to quality of the space. In addition to that, we're looking at keeping it very, very simple. Trying to keep the dollar amount down. This is a view from the parking lot, and on this side, it's just an aerial view. You've never experienced this way, but it just helps you visualize kind of the wider opening kind of funnel into the campus, and then you see the photovoltaic cells again on the roof.
So that does remove all the trees that are along that back corner back there.
There's a planter, I think on the corner right here.
There's some tall trees back there.
Yeah, this is all remaining here. I don't know if we're removing any tall trees, because the other building's pretty tight to that planter, to the wall already, but maybe I'm wrong, I'm not sure about
In
it.
an entirely separate project, we're looking at the health of all those existing trees, and it's very questionable as to whether they're going to survive at all, so.
The good thing about the site plan is you have very little site plan to deal with, because we're gonna be removing a building and putting a building back in the same place where it was at. So from a civil engineering standpoint, stormwater standpoint, which are really expensive issues these days, you're gonna have very little to deal with, which is also a really good thing about the project. Do you see a hand someplace? Next slide. So this is a view entering from the corner, looking towards the new entry of the sanctuary. You can see the reworked courtyard a little bit, with a little bit more natural, softer boulders. You'll see that a little bit in some of the other slides. And a covered roof, the covered patio that connects the new building to this existing building. So it really connects the two and ties them together, allows shade structure. Next. And this is just another glimpse from the back parking lot over here. If you were to park on this side, this is your existing ramp that you put in, and existing stairs that you just put in. But again, you can see the building kind of opens up that gateway a little bit more, allowing you to funnel in. And you can see the windows on the corner as you could on the other one that you see into the new space. So you can kind of see where you're going. And we would be planting more trees there. Next. This is a view looking at the new entry, so more across from the courtyard, looking at the building. You can start to see the big opening of the bifold doors that really transform kind of the interior space to the exterior space. We took away the door basically. So on most days, and operable windows you can see are open on the sanctuary. So on most days, you should be able to just have the windows open, doors open, and a nice breeze blowing through. If not, we'll have AC, of course. So you can see it's a very transparent, open sanctuary. We talked about that with the task force of having both shades that come down that still let light through, and then also a blackout shade. So a double roller system. So you can have different types of events in the space, so you could black it out if you wanted to during the day. Next. That gives you kind of the best view, right, coming in on the pathway, what you would see. So you see the bifold doors open. You can see secondary entrances into the sanctuary, a clear story up on top. We added some wood ceiling under the underside of the entry canopy to warm it up a little bit. And then on the inside, we have a kind of a chipboard, imagining a chipboard kind of surround with a floating wood ceiling in there and structure exposed up above that. And there's some skylights up above that too. But you can really see where you're going. So this is a view really at the big bifold doors, looking into the space. So you can see both corners are opened up, and there's a very straight focal point of the chalice, and then we're looking at one large monitor, either a projector, but probably one large monitor on the wall, as large as we can get, which should work well for the size of the room. But you can see the seating in the round and choir there, so great sight lines to everything. The short wall in front has there's the ramp behind that Joys and Sorrows, some sort of furniture piece off to the side on the ground level where that can occur. Next, this is kind of a side view, kind of the most extreme view to the television and to the platform itself. But again, you can see a lot of the windows and it's a very indoor-outdoor space. Another view from the other side, really almost from the choir, I guess. Looking back towards the church, and then you can see how the indoor-outdoor space, so the bifold doors work.
There's a screen up there, and did we see a screen on the left over there too?
Yes, this screen is a little, because of how the perspective is,
Yeah.
it's a little hard to understand, but that's a confidence monitor, but it's also a screen for the choir. So you have two screens, so everybody, wherever
Okay.
you sit within the space, can follow the service.
So how much elevation do you get in the ceiling here? You
Uh,
are
it-
ramping it up.
Yeah, it's not much. I think we're 16 feet up to like 22 feet, but we're sloping the roof for the photovoltaic cells, basically. You don't, because of where you are, you're kind of buried by the other building. There's not a kind of an opportunity to really see the building a whole lot from a distance. So it's more almost what's the ideal slope for the photovoltaics. But then it also helps on the inside as we build towards the platform, the height.
Right, I mean, you want to make it feel as spacious as.
Yes, absolutely. You can see it's a large volume, appropriate for the size.
As long as we're talking about the video monitors, where are the speakers?
Speakers, we would try to hold up, you can see them up in the ceiling. We would try
In the
to-
ceiling?
Yeah, we were trying to hold those up above the wood ceiling or at that level, so they would point down. Speakers, audio visual are really important. I can see just from the service this morning that's a big part of what you do here. And so you have to be able to hear and you have to be able to see. So if we don't do those two things well, then you might as well not build the space. So, and with this much glass, we probably will have what's called a line array speaker, which will be a series of small speakers that are in a larger box that point directly at different areas within the sanctuary. So we try to eliminate the reflection off the floor and off the glass, because we have a lot of glass here.
So continuing in that vein, are we incorporating any ability to add a dimmer control?
Switches on the wall, a push button for different scenes. So if you do rent it, you can have scene 1, scene 2, scene 3, or you can manipulate those off color monitor.
Excellent.
A lot of that's covered by or governed also by the code in the state of California for Title 24 energy calcs. There were 2 questions. Yeah.
Did I hear that your firm can model
need to be ready.
acoustics in this building before it's built? It's kind of taken off, but was just said, there's not an acoustic problem that we're building into the structure.
We don't do the acoustic portions of that. We hire a consultant to do that, and they do 3D modeling of the space. So we usually like to have the acoustician the same person as the audiovisual person. So they model it and they pick the speakers. So it is, you see, we know it's going to work. Yes.
Even the breaker bar doesn't open. The breaker bar should open.
Yeah, the breaker. I was concerned about
I
the
can't get it.
screen, or whatever you're calling the thing while we be projecting parts of the service, in that I've been to St. Martin's Presbyterian, and they said they have, because of the amount of light in their sanctuary, it rendered the screen useless. They can't go. Is it and I was told that in fact it won't be like a screen, it is like a TV panel.
That's what I'm envisioning, yes.
So that doesn't have problems with light in the sanctuary?
There's different types of monitors. I think they call it NIP, or to overcome the ambient light in the space. I did a church in Dana Point, which was spoken about, which is a total glass box, and they have monitors on the wall, and it looks beautiful. Same thing, I did a church in Malibu that has the same problem. It was a glass box. But almost any TV monitor in the location that we have shouldn't really have any other problems. It'll be a much better picture than this. And the prices of those just keep coming down.
How big?
I think they're up to 85 or 95 inches or something. So
Same size as this screen?
yeah, almost the same size, yeah. A little bit different proportion, 16:9 ratio. But the image will be much better, much brighter.
As long as we're asking questions. The dimensions of what I would call the stage, how deep and how wide?
I don't have that off the top of my head, but if I would guess, it's kind of almost from surrounding the piano, out to here and then back. I mean, it's quite large.
It's enormous.
Yeah, it's large.
Hallelujah.
Yeah.
She will be doing plays here.
I'm responsible for the safety aspects of this congregation, and those opening doors in back look like they would present a real security issue in terms of being able to control and monitor access to this building.
Yes, unfortunately, in today's world, that is a concern many congregations are dealing with. I think you would be better off, we have not discussed that in any length, but it would be better off to try to protect the openings further out from the sanctuary itself. You have some very good key points or control points, where you could control to stop somebody even before they get there. Okay, next. And this is a view of a planned donor wall that would be on the back of the wall. And you can see the end of the bifold doors here, just so, and then that corner is back towards that parking lot. Next. And this is a similar picture, and then we have an interactive view. I don't think I'm going to do that today, but that's something Craig can put up on your website, and it would allow you to actually get into the space and be able to spin around and look at everything, ceiling, floor, everything. It's a really fascinating tool.
One of the things I wanted to mention, to add to what David said about the joys and concerns, we've talked about a lot of different ways of doing it, maybe even doing something that's mobile that we can roll out and put in the front, maybe on the side. I think Craig or Sean's preference is to have it on the front, so that's still in conversation.
What are you talking about?
The Joys and Sorrows table with the candles.
Oh.
So there's certain things, what we're talking about today is a conceptual plan. So there's things that are, we talked about being able to adapt and so forth. There will be things that are adapted. And as this plan has probably been in, a couple of weeks. I mean, we've had different adaptations all along the way as we got feedback and as we studied it as a group. So we'll continue to do that and rely on David's smart knowledge of church architecture, but also balance that with our needs as a congregation. So who hasn't asked a question that would like to do so? Barbara?
So we have several large storage closets.
Right.
Over in Suite 3. Where is all that stuff gonna go?
We do have one large storage room, back behind the chalice wall, which is a fairly large room. It's probably, it's kind of this whole corner right here, which was important. I tried to get rid of it because storage is expensive to build. And they came back and said, no, we need the storage in the corner. Yeah. But, when you take pressure off of this building, there hopefully would be other places in this building where you could find the storage also.
That would mainly be storage for things that we need every Sunday, and also as we're adapting the space for other uses, where we have to move chairs and things like that. But those are,
Some of the stuff that's in there
Right.
would go,
those are details that we'll work out
okay.
once we get that.
In June, we had an environmental film festival in this room, and even though we had assigned seating, we turned out to have an overflow crowd in here. The sanctuary looks very good for worship service, but I don't think it would be good for a film festival. I'm just asking if that's a possibility.
Yes, we've talked about that, and I had mentioned that it is a blackout, so you could block out every window in that space. They're all horizontal heads across the window, so very easy to put a roller shade on it and pull it down.
And would there be like a screen where the chalice is? Because where you have the monitor doesn't look very central.
Yes, there was even discussion with Craig a little bit this morning. There was conversation about those locations and such. It would seem like in a film festival, you would probably bring in a temporary, much larger screen or something than what you would have on the wall, so you could place that in front of it. I would guess that's how that would work.
Any other questions, which have all been really good so far? Evelyn?
If we decided we didn't like so much light and we would like to have more trees in front of the windows on the outside, I think I get it on this side, it's possible. Is it possible, is there land on both sides of the exteriors where all those windows are? So you could put trees in there?
Yes, they've grown on both sides. They're both kind of a wide space funnel, kind of wider towards the parking lot. That was when I first met. That was my initial thing to really do an outdoor kind of gathering space. We're working with Solano Beach, your sister congregation down in Solano Beach, which has an outdoor kind of amphitheater. We've been working with them, have city issues, trying to get that through.
Are you also considering the cooling aspects of this building with all the windows?
Yes, certainly. Well, the new windows are usually a low E and block out the ultraviolet light, so they're very efficient. They're dual glazed and they block out the natural light. You can put your hand up to it, you won't feel the heat like you typically would. But we also will look at adding air conditioning, of course, on hot days. But we've been told that there's always a breeze kind of that flows through here.
So I just want to mention that one of the things that David talked about that I really love about this space, that I know that there are issues around safety or light or whatever, but I love the windows because it's a theology of openness and inclusivity and transparency that is part of who we are, and I like that idea. Some churches I've seen, there's some boxed in and there's not a lot of natural light. It feels more navel gazing, where this is about, we're trying to go out into the world and have that world come into us too.
Yes, this building reflects who you are. If you go on our website, you'll see kind of a vast array of architectural designs. At heart, we're all kind of contemporaryist, but you'll see very traditional sanctuaries, you'll see very modern sanctuaries, and that's because we listen and try to build that space for each congregation unique.
Any more questions before we have Nancy?
On the light, I love the light too, but I am concerned it looks like we're looking into the parking lot. And I don't wanna be looking at people arriving in their cars and having
If
them
we go
distract.
back to the site plan, you'll see that in each of those, there are trees that we would try to plant. And there's skinnier, so there's plantings here, and we kind of have plantings on the corner, so we would try to, do as much shading there.
See on that site plan, where's the street and?
The street is over here, so this is the main drive-in. And this is the parking lot that wraps the building.
I love the openness as well. I do have a question about the ventilation in, I know the one area, the doors completely open up. Do the other windows open up, or are those?
Yes, you'll see those in the renderings, and we also have skylights that would let the heat out also,
Okay.
just through actual convection.
On this view, where are those windows that, fall apart?
Right here,
Right in one area.
right at the main courtyard. So that main seating bank, could then extend to the exterior.
It's at the same level.
Yes.
Yes.
Everything is all open, it looks lovely. What happens when the ambulance drives by and the police car drives by? Is there some way to
Quiet them down.
buffer them?
Incorporated in the music.
It's a challenge trying to, do everything well.
We don't want by that.
So,
We never hear it.
I would rule over the openness and transparency that kind of is your mission here. And if that happens, you take a moment, relax your eyes, deep breath, and come back into your life.
Craig and I actually attended a service down in Dana Point at the Gloria Day Church, Lutheran Church. And we noticed they do have these folding doors. And the minister hit one little button and the thing opened. And I would think that it's very easy. They look massive, but they're easy to close as well. So it's not something that, somebody's gonna be pulling on the doors and make a lot of noise and that type of thing. They glide back and forth.
Huh? I just wanna mention also, because I'm not sure you mentioned it, there is actually a ramp also up onto the stage for, everybody, which is great, so.
Yeah, on the backside here. I did mention that. Yes. Yes.
I have questions about the lighting. Have you specified the lighting
No.
yet? Because I have a lot of experience, I've sold lighting for years, and I've experienced kind of like, I know the spec grade level, of what kind of products are out there. But I also know the challenges of when you're trying to maintain a property, what type of maintenance issues there might be, that type of thing. So if you need help budget engineering, any kind of products or anything, I want to offer my assistance.
Awesome.
Great.
Awesome.
Give me
Almost,
your card.
almost everything we specify these days are LEDs. It was several years for spaces like this where they got bright enough and were inexpensive enough to make them feasible, but they are here now. They've been that way for a couple of years. Great output. We do photovoltaic or photometric studies of the sanctuary, so we can kind of see what the light level is. And it's all tied in with costs and everything else, but you're a great resource, awesome.
I should talk to,
You can, Craig Sperry or myself.
okay.
So one of the things that David just said was cost, and I'm shocked that no one's asked that question yet. But we're talking about a figure a little upwards of 1.5 million. So that means we have a lot of fundraising to do. And how far up?
Yeah.
Well, it all depends. It's, as David said, if we could have built larger, as Bonnie was talking about, a larger facility, but as we looked at that, realistically, we can't afford that, given our base. The Gloria Day down in Dana Point has 300 or so members, and they have a much larger facility, but we've got to be realistic about what we can raise and what is, well, we just have to be realistic about it. So we have started a capital campaign for large donors, large amount donors. Some of you have been contacted. If you're interested in making a large contribution, I'd be happy to sit down with you anytime, day or night. And also other members of our task force would as well. And there are ways, if you look at your handout that you have, if you didn't get one, you get one on the way out. There are ways that we're not looking for people to not be able to pay their rent or to pay their light bill, to give to this project. We're looking at ways that you might give, that maybe you bought some stock and it's done really, really well. It's just kind of sitting there and you're ready to sell it, but don't sell it. We'll transfer it to the account for the church, and there will be no tax liabilities for you and none for the church, and it's a win-win situation. And those things can be worked out. Just let us know. Craig and I have done that on a number of occasions with our church back on Nantucket. Also, if you're 70 and a half and you have to take a minimal, you guys know, legal knows, you know, you get, if you don't do something with that money, you're gonna be penalized. You have to take it. So what better place to give it than the church? And you won't have any tax liabilities on that as well. And I think a couple of things that to think about are, you know, a lot of us have alumni groups and so forth, and we're asked many times to give. We may go to those campuses once a year, once every 10 years. You're here every Sunday, and you know what a wonderful organization this is, and all the good work that we do. So priority-wise, I know Craig and I have chosen this as our priority. And there are other places that have asked us for gifts, and we've said, not right now, give us 3 years, we're giving to our church to build a new sanctuary. So we're also looking at bucket lists. A lot of us have bucket lists of places to go. You might say, yeah, that's great, but I'm gonna hold off on that for 3 years until I pay to help build this sanctuary. So there are ways to look at it, but this is a valuable, valuable community to so many of us. And I think this is a way that we can not only enjoy it ourselves, but also bring new people in and also extend our liberal religious values to more of Orange County. That's all my rah-rah speech. No more. So David is going to, it's 1 o'clock, so we're gonna call it a stop to things now. David and I'll be up here, Craig will be up here, Karen Kennedy, others on the task force will be around. Please ask your questions. If you hear somebody say, oh, that church is gonna cost $4 million, ask us, and we'll tell you the reality of what the costs are and other things. So, and we appreciate your support, and thanks so much for staying after church.